I really like the Victorinox Farmer, but I would change one thing about it, and that's I would like to add a pair of scissors to this. One thing I like about it is that, you know, the awl or leather punch or whatever, however you're going to use it, comes out the end instead of out the handle to tee off. It's pretty bare bones, but it has a saw. I think this would be perfect if I just added a pair of scissors. And I got the idea for this from a guy from the UK named John, and he had a knife modified similarly. So I did some searching around. I looked on a forum called multitool.org, and there were some instructions on how to do something similar to that. And so what I did was I bought a climber, and I'm going to take this climber and take the scissors out of it and put it in here if I can. The issue is going to be the back spring, whether or not I can make the back spring from the scissors on this work. So without further ado, we'll give it a shot. What I have to do first is I have to get these red scales off of the climber, and what I have to do is get some sort of a way to get this underneath there. Kind of sad to be losing the scales, because the one thing I would like is the ability to put these toothpick and tweezers in there. Maybe I'll figure out a way to do that someday. But anyway, the next step is going to be to drill these rivets out of there. So before I just go crazy with a drill on these, what I need to do is mark in the center a little spot for the drill bit to go for each of these holes, so that it's less likely to slip once we get started. So I got them drilled, and actually this outside collar thing it really is just a little collar. It's not really secured on there except by the rivet. And so what I did was I just tapped on this smaller one. I just tapped with a little punch here, and I was able to push that rivet most of the way out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap the rest of these out. You can see this middle screw, just by tapping it a little bit, came right out. So I'm just going to pull on this little rivet here until it comes the rest of the way. I'll probably save this in case I need it for later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap these out real quick. I've got all those pins out. You notice I've got this taped up because as soon as those pins come out, this thing wants to explode. And I kind of want to keep track of where everything goes. I'm going to take a picture. Now I got to get this little pin out. One way to do that would be to take a file to it. And that's all she wrote. Now I just have to tap that out. So despite my best efforts, it blew up anyway. That's not a huge deal. I can always find another image of this somewhere. So now I need to get the rivets out of this one, and because I don't want to mar up the aluminum around the things, I need to be very, very careful, and that's why I started with that other one first, was to get a little bit of experience doing that. So I'm going to mark each rivet kind of in the center with a little punch here, and then I'll drill them out. I'm going to start with even a smaller drill bit on this than I used the last time. This is a 3/32 inch, and I'm going to go real slow and careful here. And now what I want to do is figure out how to take this apart in an orderly fashion. So I'm going to start with the the can opener and the bottle opener up and the ring facing the right. One thing I learned after I got the knife apart is that the pins that went in these two outer holes are actually 3 millimeters, and the one on the inside is 2.5 millimeters. So I have the appropriate sized brass rods to make pins for this, but since this inner hole was 2.5 millimeters and this hook apparatus came from something where it was a 2.2 millimeter pin, I'm going to have to drill this out to 2.5 millimeters. And by the way, this is a 2.5 millimeter bit made by a company called Chicago Latrobe. Now I have to drill the scissors out to 3 millimeters because this came from a 2.5 millimeter screwed knife. And now I have to drill out the spring for the scissors. Now I have to drill out the spacer. The sides need to be 3 millimeters and the inside hole needs to be 2.5. The next step is to take these 2.5 millimeter brass rods. This is by K&S Engineering, I bought off Amazon, and these 3 millimeter brass rods, and turn them into rivets. And so I've left myself some extra room. I basically took 2 of the 3 millimeters and 1 of the 2.5 millimeters and cut them into 2-inch lengths. And I'm going to assemble the knives, or the knife, on top of these, and then cut it off to about 1 millimeter longer than I need, maybe a little less than 1 millimeter, so that I can flatten the rivet on the other end. So here it is, completed. You can see the little rivets are filling up the holes pretty well, and they're not pulling through, and that's kind of what I was going for. Now it's time for me to figure out how to assemble this. Okay, so I've put everything together and taped it up so I don't nick anything, and I'm going to try to peen the top outside pin. I've cut that off obviously a little bit. As I understand it, this is a bit of trial and error to get these pins to sit like you want them to, and to have the knife be nice and tight. So I've got it together. It's about the right stiffness. Realizing that this is going to loosen up over time. I'm happy with how tight it is, so I'm not going to flatten these rivets anymore. I do need to do the center one. One thing that I would change if I was going to do this again is this hook needs to be repositioned that way a little bit by drilling a different hole. But I don't really use this that much anyway, so I'm thinking of just cutting it off there and just letting it recess back into there. You have to have this, at least with this particular scissors back spring, you have to have this there so that it tensions the spring for the scissors. The scissors open and close real nice and are functional. So I just have, I just need to shorten this, pound it flat, and I think I'm going to end up cutting that hook off, and I will show the completed project. So there we have it. I've finished customizing my little Swiss Army knife here. It's got the features that I was looking for. It's got the awl that opens out the front. It's got, you know, a knife there. Everything works. Everything is nice. It's got a saw. I use the saw. It's got scissors. That was the hard thing. And it's got the large screwdriver and bottle opener, and it's got the can opener, and those are all the things that I use on a Swiss Army knife. I would like to have kept the hook on the back, but in the end I just didn't want to mess with drilling a new hole and taking everything apart and putting it back together again. You can certainly do that if you want, but that's how I added scissors to my Swiss Army knife.